fall semester of my junior year at the University of Wisconsin-Parkside. I served as the president of the student body. I got this position from serving as a senator in the student government and then as the Segregated Fee Allocation Committee Director, also known as SUFAC Director. I decided to continue with my political career at Parkside so that I would use it as a stepping stone to become mayor of Kenosha. Kenosha, Wisconsin will always hold a dear place in my heart because this is my hometown, and I love it dearly.
So this is the house that we have been staying at, Dalkeith Palace, residence of Queen Anne, I don't know.
On my flight back to Scotland from Switzerland, I missed my connecting flight and ended up being stranded in Paris for 24 hours, which was a huge bummer on account I was meant to attend a TED Talk in Edinburgh that day. The very same TED Talk about intercultural communications that I kind of went to Scotland to see. It was a whole deal, the whole reason I went to Scotland. My time as president was cut short in November of 2016 because I decided on impulse that I wanted to live in Scotland for almost 5 months. While in Scotland, I would live in a palace called the Dalkeith Palace and study intercultural communications. By this I mean I wanted to travel around Europe and Northern Africa to see how other people live and communicate with one another. It's always extremely interesting to be able to study communication because there's so much to learn and everyone does it slightly differently. Intercultural communication is such a broad field, I believe that you can never truly know everything about it, and the only thing you can do is keep on learning. November 2016 and January 2017, I filled out all the paperwork and got all the appropriate documentation in order, and was finally ready for the adventure of my lifetime. I decided to embark on this epic journey because of my mentor and favorite professor, Faye Kindis. I had up to this point taken multiple classes of Faye's every single semester, and learned everything I know about communication from her, or most of it at least. So when she asked me to come along to Scotland to study intercultural communication, of course I had to say yes to this amazing opportunity. I definitely knew that I had my work cut out for me, but if I put my mind to it, I could accomplish anything. I spent that month filling out every form I could, applying for every scholarship imaginable, and even planned a couple of my side trips. I knew that traveling abroad would be expensive, but I could do it if I put my mind to it. With just 2 weeks before I left to embark on this journey, I fell ill to mono. My doctor told me that I would not be healthy enough to travel in time, and I needed to back out of this trip. I decided, what does he know? He only went to school for like a million years to become a doctor. So I went on WebMD and some forums and spent like 20 minutes on Google and found a guy on a chat room that told me I should be fine enough to go. I decided, that's good enough for me. So I hopped on a plane, and let me tell you, that was the absolute worst 8 hours of my life. I thought I was going to die from the pressure of the plane cabins. The flight attendants made me sign another mountain of paperwork, stating that I knew I was sick before I got on the plane, and they finally gave me some medicine to help ease the pain. After my plane landed, all that separated me from a half a year in Scotland was a 5-hour train ride from London to Edinburgh. I was so excited that I didn't even care that I would have to sit on a train for another 5 hours. I had mono all throughout the trip, and it really affected me, but I got through it. When I finally made it to the palace that I would live in for the next 5 months, all I could think about is how I was basically living in the X-Men mansion. I knew that I was about to have the time of my life. I was excited to learn about all this intercultural communication and experience the lifestyles of so many different cultures, and visit the bars like Mason's that the locals would drink at. The next place I decided to travel was Switzerland, where I was visited by some family members that I never had met before. While in Switzerland, I walked around the town Basel because my aunt was at work at the time. While walking around, I made friends with this one man who I thought was actually a homeless man. Not a homeless man at all. He was actually a very wealthy man who is a historian for the town Basel. He walked me around the city after we got kind of drunk at the bar, and he told me all about the history of Basel. He told me that Basel was split into two sides, the rich and the poor, which now it's kind of all rich. But back in the day, the poor lived on the one side, which was closer to Germany, and the rich lived on the other side, which was closer to France. This was so that if the Nazis ever invaded, they would just blow up the bridges and leave the poor to fight the Nazis while the rich would run and flee to France and escape. On my flight back to Scotland from Switzerland, I missed my connecting flight and ended up being stranded in Paris for 24 hours, which was a huge bummer on account I was meant to attend a TED Talk in Edinburgh that day. The very same TED Talk about intercultural communications that I kind of went to Scotland to see. It was a whole deal, the whole reason I went to Scotland. But nonetheless, I decided 24 hours in Paris, might as well see it up. So I bought a train ticket and went into the city center to see the Eiffel Tower. While on the train, I met a man whose daughter is currently studying in Chicago. I thought to myself, what are the odds that I traveled all the way across the world and was able to find somebody who's connected to a city so close to mine? While speaking to him, he warned me that I should watch out for pickpocketers and scammers in the city, because they're a huge problem in the city center. I heard his warning, and I kind of took it with a grain of salt, which ironically, not 2 hours into my time at Paris, I was actually mugged, and they took my breakfast. I had no money on me, thankfully, but now I know that I need to always listen to people in cities when they're trying to help me, because they actually live there. They know more about it than I do. With everything that I learned in my travels, I now know that I need to listen to others, and I also want to take everything that I learned and bring it back to Kenosha about socioeconomic problems, much like the beggars in Paris and the rich versus the poor in Switzerland and the low-income drinking problem in Scotland. I want to fix the socioeconomic problems in Kenosha when I become mayor one day.